This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, March 14th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
The House has easily passed a bill that could lead to a TikTok ban in the U.S. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Democrats and some Republicans in Congress are launching attempts to push through funding for Ukraine. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The president of Russia again speaking about his country's nuclear capabilities. I'm Clayton Neville.
I'm Mike Hempen. A judge dismisses some of the charges against former President Trump in the Georgia 2020 election interference case.
On Wall Street, a step closer to a ban on TikTok as stocks are coming off a split day. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Hunter Biden could face trial in Delaware on federal firearms charges as soon as June 3rd. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Rats have gotten into confiscated marijuana at the New Orleans police headquarters. I'm Haya Panjwani.
All ahead on America in the Morning. A bipartisan bill that could potentially lead to a TikTok ban in the U.S. has easily passed the House, but its path forward is unclear, despite President Biden saying he would sign it. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani has the latest.
On this vote, the yeas are 352, the nays are 65. One present, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without the objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The House has easily passed a bill that could lead to a TikTok ban in the U.S.
TikTok is owned by ByteDance. ByteDance is in China. And when you're in China, you have to do whatever the Chinese Communist Party says you have to do. If they want you to spy for them, you will spy for them. That's how that works. They have a board member from the Chinese Communist Party on ByteDance.
The popular app is owned by Chinese tech firm ByteDance, which lawmakers say is beholden to the Beijing government. They worry China could demand access to the data of TikTok's more than 150 million American users. Washington Republican Kathy McMorris Rogers says the bill requires ByteDance to sell TikTok if it wants to keep operating in the U.S.
We have given TikTok a clear choice. Separate from your parent company ByteDance, which is beholden to the CCP, and remain operational in the United States, or side with the CCP and face the consequences. The choice is TikTok's.
But California Republican Tom McClintock says the choice should actually rest with American consumers.
The last thing we should do is take that power away from the people and give it to the government. The answer to authoritarianism is not more authoritarianism. The answer to CCP-style propaganda is not CCP-style oppression. Let us slow down before we blunder down this very steep and slippery slope.
The bill's Senate prospects are unclear. President Biden has said he will sign the legislation if it passes. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
With aid to Ukraine stalled in Congress, House Democrats and some Republicans are trying a couple different ways to push it through. John Stolnis has that from Washington.
With the Senate's $60 billion in aid to Ukraine still awaiting a vote in the Republican-controlled House, House Democrats are launching a discharge petition, a long-shot maneuver in which they're trying to secure enough votes in Congress to work around House Speaker Mike Johnson's refusal to bring the $95 billion Senate-approved foreign aid supplemental up for a vote.
For some reason, Donald Trump supports Vladimir Putin. And because he controls half of the Republican Party in the House, this bill has not come to the floor, even though there's support from a supermajority of the House of Representatives.
Democrat Dan Goldman says the choice for members is clear.
This aid bill, as it relates to Ukraine, is simply a question of whether you support Vladimir Putin or whether you do not support Vladimir Putin.
Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the bill has enough support for passage right now in the House.
That's why we're saying to the Speaker, the right thing to do is to honor the wishes of the House, the strong bipartisan support that is there, and give us a vote.
The Senate passed supplemental that also includes aid for Israel and the Indo-Pacific region was denied a vote in the House after former President Donald Trump urged allies in the House not to take it up. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell urging Speaker Johnson to defy the president's wishes.
I want to encourage the Speaker again to allow a vote. Let the House speak on the supplemental that we sent over to them several weeks ago.
Moderate Republicans are launching a petition of their own that would trim the package to $66 billion, mostly military aid, with border security provisions in place as well. Earlier this week, the Pentagon managed to find another $300 million to spend on Ukraine that National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says will be most welcome.
When Russian troops advance and its guns fire, Ukraine does not have enough ammunition to fire back. That's costing terrain, it's costing lives, and it's costing us, the United States and the NATO alliance, strategically.
John Stolnis, Washington.
When we return on America in the Morning, Putin touts nukes. After these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Portions of the Midwest under the threat of severe weather today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Carrie Schwindenhammer.
Severe weather is in the offing once again across portions of central and northern Missouri, stretching into parts of Illinois. But that severe weather threat also continues farther south. We're talking about eastern Oklahoma and Kansas, Arkansas, northeast Texas, and, of course, Louisiana, Mississippi as well eventually as we head through the afternoon. We can expect the possibility of damaging winds and flooding downpours, but also large hail and even an isolated tornado across this area as a cold front continues its eastward march. Much of the East Coast will be quiet as we head into the day on Thursday. Looks like some snow showers in central and northern Maine, and of course maybe some rain showers in southern New York. But for the most part, we're looking at dry weather. New York City especially getting up to near 70, upper 70s in Washington, D.C. and Atlanta, and even into the 80s across parts of Florida. Our snowstorm continues in the Denver area, where we could see 6 to 10 inches of accumulation through the morning hours on Friday. Snow also will fall across the mountains of New Mexico and into parts of the Nebraska Panhandle. Maybe some snow showers in North Dakota. Quiet weather for much of the West Coast. Dry weather as well in Seattle and Portland, but in Los Angeles, Santa Ana winds could provide localized damage, and that could lead to power outage issues as well. We're looking at upper 60s in San Francisco with some sunshine overhead. And that's the weather across America. Localized damaging winds in Santa Ana, winds across Los Angeles. Meanwhile, we're looking at the threat for damaging winds, large hail, flooding downpours, and even a tornado in Dallas. The high temperature in Dallas getting up to near 80. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Carrie Schwindenhammer.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Russian President Vladimir Putin is flexing his country's nuclear muscle ahead of this week's election in Russia. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The Russian president expected to win this weekend's election handily. A victory would secure another 6-year term for Putin. This more than 2 years after Russia invaded Ukraine. This week, Putin said in an interview that Russia's ready to use nuclear weapons if its sovereignty or independence is threatened. The White House responding, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
Russia's nuclear rhetoric has been reckless and irresponsible throughout this conflict. It is Russia that brutally invaded Ukraine without provocation or justification, and will continue to support Ukraine as they defend their people and their sovereign territory.
Just last month, Putin warned the West's potential involvement in the fighting in Ukraine would risk a nuclear war. But he maintains he's had no reason to use nukes in Ukraine to this point, and called President Biden a leader that he says understands the potential dangers of any further escalation. I'm Clayton Neville.
A judge in Atlanta's Fulton County has thrown out multiple counts contained in the election interference indictment against former President Trump and several of his co-defendants. But as we learned from correspondent Mike Hempen, the former president still faces charges.
Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee wrote that 6 of the counts in the racketeering indictment must be quashed, including 3 against Trump. But he left in place 10 others against Trump and says prosecutors can seek a new indictment on the charges he dismissed. The indictment charges Trump and more than a dozen other defendants with violating Georgia's Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. This is the first time in any of Trump's 4 criminal cases that charges charges have been dismissed, with the judge ruling prosecutors failed to provide enough details about the alleged crime. The ruling is a blow for Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis. She's facing an attempt to have her removed from the prosecution due to her romantic relationship with a colleague. I'm Mike Hempen.
When we return on America in the Morning, revenge travel after these messages. Headwinds in the electric vehicle market is hitting Fisker. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the EV startup has hired restructuring advisors to assist with a possible bankruptcy filing, which sent their stock falling more than 40% after hours. Last month, Fisker issued a warning that there was doubt over their long-term ability to stay in business. The company lowered their car prices last year, hoping to spur sales, and last month laid off 15% of their workers. Fisker is one of a number of electric vehicle startups that went public around 2020, hoping to emulate the success of Tesla. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Thursday Business.
Wall Street opens this morning after a modestly mixed finish yesterday for the markets. The S&P 500 index pulled back from a record high, and the Nasdaq slipped, but the Dow was in the green. Bitcoin with a fresh all-time high, pushing through 73,000 before pulling back. The House passed a bill that could lead to a ban on TikTok. Critics say it's a Chinese-owned propaganda machine in the hands of 140 million Americans on their phones, and a national security risk because it could be used to spread disinformation, influence elections, and it's a treasure trove of Americans' data.
What would be much more fair and would actually deal with the problem better would be a federal privacy law that standardizes all of these different privacy laws that are being passed by the states. And second, applies to every company, protects Americans' data, and specifically says that Americans' data cannot be stored or accessed from certain adversary countries, which include the People's Republic of China and Russia. That would not just catch TikTok, but the thousands of other Chinese companies that are building software that is being used by Americans.
Sentinel One's Alex Stamos on CNBC. If you're thinking about trying to buy a home this spring, more people are out there to compete with, and they're applying for mortgages.
Mortgage rates swung slightly lower last week, fueling a significant jump in mortgage demand. The average on the 30-year fixed dropped last week to 6.84% from 7.02, crossing that 7 line, and that's for loans with 20% down. Applications for a mortgage to purchase a home rose 5% for the week, but we're still 11% lower than a year ago. Home buyers are up against more than just high interest rates. They're looking at sky-high home prices and a still lean supply of houses for sale. More inventory is coming onto the market, but it is still not enough to meet the demand, especially for the smaller starter homes.
CNBC's Diana Olick. Yesterday, the average rate on a 30-year home loan was 6.9%, so a slight tick higher from last week.
Jessica, are we looking at a hike in airline ticket prices with summer coming on soon?
Yes, you should. People aren't not flying. They're out there. Delta Airlines CEO told CNBC there is no pullback in travel at his airline, even as many say the surge in post-pandemic revenge travel is over.
Spring and summer is going to be yet again another busy period for travel. The demand to go overseas will continue. Delta is doing very, very well.
Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian on CNBC. On today's watch list, we find out inflation at the wholesale level for February, and we get retail sales numbers for last month. Earnings are coming from Dick's Sporting Goods, Dollar General, Adobe, and Ulta Beauty. And it's Pi Day, March 14th, 3.14. Deals and discounts at bakeries and pizza shops.
Thank you, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Thursday Headlines in Business. When we return on America in the Morning, stoned rodents. After these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. The president's son could soon face trial in Delaware and California. Lisa Dwyer reports that Hunter Biden has also turned down an invitation to appear before Congress.
In the midst of his father's re-election campaign, Hunter Biden could face trial in Delaware on federal firearms charges as soon as June 3rd. The date is tentative, however, as the judge weighs several defense motions to toss out the case. In California, a separate trial on tax charges is now tentatively set to begin later that month. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden has rejected an invitation from House Republicans to appear for a public hearing next week alongside former business associates. Hunter Biden sat for a nearly 7-hour deposition last month. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Having your office infested with rats is bad enough, but as correspondent Haya Panjwani reports, the rodents in the New Orleans police headquarters are not just a nuisance, they're also stoned.
Close your eyes and imagine your home is infested with rats. Now imagine they're all high. If that sounds fictitious to you, think again. The New Orleans police headquarters is aging, so the building's been taken over by mold, cockroaches, and rats. Because of that, Police Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick says rats have gotten into the pot that law enforcement have confiscated. During a New Orleans City Council meeting, Kirkpatrick said these conditions are unacceptable.
When we say we value our employees, you can't say that and at the same time allow people to work in conditions that are not acceptable.
For now, the City Council is considering a proposal to potentially relocate the office to a pair of floors in a high-rise building downtown. I'm Haya Panjwani.
America in the Morning for Thursday, March 14th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
It's Biden versus Trump again for the presidency in a rare White House race rematch. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Congresswoman Lauren Boebert says Democrats are out to get her. I'm Clayton Neville.
The parents of a school shooter now have their future in the jury's hands. I'm Katie Clark with details.
The latest in the Middle East, the case of a teen's death in a high school bathroom and more arrests in the Super Bowl parade shooting. We'll have those stories.
Dollar Tree will close nearly 1,000 stores. I'm Rita Foley.
Olivia Munn shared her breast cancer diagnosis on social media this week. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. A wide area of storms expected today with the national forecast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Carrie Schwindenhammer.
Severe weather is going to be a possibility again today across a large portion of the central United States, and that includes from Illinois and Missouri as well, down south through northeast Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. We saw some severe weather during the day on Wednesday across central Kansas and Missouri, and some of those same places in Missouri on Thursday could again be impacted by isolated tornadoes, damaging winds, and the possibility of large hail and flooding downpours as well. Meanwhile, in contrast, pretty quiet and mild across much of the east. 70 degrees for high in New York City with some sunshine. Even sunnier in Washington, D.C. with highs in the upper 70s with high pressure in control. And we'll be in the upper 70s in Atlanta as well. Temperatures in the 80s across Florida. Meanwhile, our snow continues across the Denver area, and we're expecting 6 to 10 inches of accumulation on average through about Friday morning, but higher amounts, of course, will occur in some of those elevations to the west. Snow could also fall into northern and central New Mexico, the Nebraska Panhandle, and into southern Wyoming as well. Now, there will be some snow showers and flurries in North Dakota, and that's where temperatures will be in the 30s for the most part. Quiet weather along much of the west coast, including Seattle and Portland, seeing some sunshine. In contrast, we'll have damaging winds potentially from Santa Ana winds in Southern California, and Los Angeles in particular is an area of concern. That's where we could also see travel delays and the possibility of localized damage, especially with some of those tree limbs coming down. San Francisco, a little bit quieter with highs in the upper 60s and some sunshine there as well. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com's Carrie Schwindenhammer.
Remember, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Now that both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are their party's presumptive nominees, Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports that this November's rematch is a rare race in American history.
You have to go back to names like Adams, Jefferson, Hamilton, Van Buren, and most recently, Eisenhower.
He ran twice against the widely respected Governor Adlai Stevenson, beat him soundly both times.
This is the first rematch in 68 years. Southern Methodist University's Cal Jilson says perhaps the best parallel for Donald Trump, Grover Cleveland, decades before that.
He won the White House in 1884, and then he lost it in the subsequent election and came back and won it again.
Winning back the White House from the man who pushed him out, Benjamin Harrison. Cleveland is the only president to serve non-consecutive terms, something Trump hopes to replicate. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The 15-year-old Michigan boy who shot and killed fellow students at his high school has already learned his fate. Now, following his mother, who stood trial, his father's fate is in the hands of a jury. Correspondent Katie Clark reports.
Ethan Crumbley, who is serving life in prison without the possibility of parole, went to school with a gun in November of 2021 when he shot a teacher and 10 students. 4 of those students died. Earlier on the day of the shooting, the parents were called to a meeting at the school because Ethan had been drawing violent images and asking for help. The parents left the school without taking him home. Prosecutors say that Ethan's parents, Jennifer and James, were negligent and ignored warning signs of his mental issues. Ethan said that he asked his parents for help, but they didn't listen. His father's being accused of failing to securely store the guns. The murder weapon was a gift given to Ethan by his dad 4 days before the crimes. James Crumbley maintained that he didn't see any trouble or warning signs with his son, and he declined to testify in his own trial. Marielle Lehman, defense attorney for James Crumbley.
James didn't know. He didn't know that his son knew where those firearms were. Absence of evidence that James knew that his son had learned where those firearms were can be your reasonable doubt.
Karen McDonald, Oakland County prosecutor.
Any number of tragically small efforts could have saved the lives of 4 kids. That it was foreseeable and it was preventable. And the evidence presented in the last 5 days has proven that, ladies and gentlemen.
James faces 15 years in prison if convicted. Jennifer's sentencing is next month. I'm Katie Clark.
Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, running in a new district, is pointing the finger of blame at Democrats, saying they're targeting her re-election campaign in Colorado. Correspondent Clayton Neville is following that story.
Congresswoman Lauren Boebert's accusation surrounds these comments made by Republican Congressman Ken Buck this week, who announced his retirement last year but recently moved up that time frame.
This place just keeps going downhill, and I don't need to spend my time here. We've taken impeachment and we've made it a social media issue as opposed to a constitutional concept. Mike Johnson's ability to talk me into staying here is going to be about as successful as his ability into talking me into unconstitutional impeachments.
Buck's decision to leave D.C. sooner than expected has impacted Boebert's campaign in Colorado. She planned to leave her district to run for Buck's seat. But now there'll be a special election to temporarily fill Buck's current seat. Boebert would have to step away from her seat to run in that special. Boebert says she'll hold off on doing that and run as planned, and points to Democrats.
The Uniparty is trying to do everything that they can to stop my candidacy, to rig the election in Colorado. And, this is breaking news.
Boebert took to the podcast world this week to say she's being targeted.
The establishment concocted a swampy backroom deal to try to rig an election that I'm winning by 25 points, forcing an unnecessary special election when the same day as the primary election in Colorado. And this will confuse voters, and it will result in a lame duck congressman on day one and leave the 4th district with no representation.
This as Boebert's personal issues play out in the public. The Congresswoman recently dropped a request for a restraining order against her ex-husband. She told the judge the two have come to a strict agreement. The request believed to have been spurred by heated interactions involving Boebert and her ex. I'm Clayton Neville.
As the United States leads the effort to get more food and aid into Gaza by building a temporary seaport, Israel faced a barrage of 100 rockets fired from areas in Lebanon on Wednesday after a targeted Israeli strike killed a senior Hamas leader. Israel's military is preparing to attack the last major Hamas stronghold in the Palestinian enclave. The Biden administration is supporting a limited operation to go after high-valued terrorist targets. While life is still not back to normal in Israel, correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports many evangelical Christians strongly back its war with Gaza.
In a lemon orchard in southern Israel, volunteers provide extra hands for farmers struggling to harvest crops. Swiss volunteer Anne-Marie Freen says her evangelical faith has a home in Israel.
It's an honor to serve this land and to be near you, to cry with you, to pray with you, to hope with you, to believe with you.
Since the Israel-Hamas war began 5 months ago, evangelicals have been visiting Israel in growing numbers to volunteer and support the war effort. A volunteer from the Netherlands, Ganny van Veen, thinks the world's against Israel, but her church is certainly not.
I know the whole world hates Israel. And I want to say, and we want to say as a group, we love Israel and we stand behind you.
Tourism to Israel has plummeted since October when the war started. Now half of those who do visit come with faith-based groups, authorities say. In the US, support for Israel has become a top priority for evangelical Christians during a presidential election year. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The presidential election, keeping AI in check. That and more when America in the Morning returns after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. A new development in the case of a teen that died a day after being beaten in an Oklahoma high school bathroom. Lisa Dwyer reports the death of Nex Benedict has now been ruled a suicide.
A summary autopsy report shows that 16-year-old Nex Benedict, who used they-them pronouns, had toxic levels of 2 drugs in their system and died of an overdose. Nex was conscious and alert after the bathroom fight on February 7th when telling police about the attack by 3 girls. Nex's grandmother called 911 the next day when Nex was found unresponsive in their home. On the call, Sue Benedict expressed concern about a head injury from the attack as she described Nex's symptoms. Nex's breathing was shallow, with eyes rolled back and hands curled up. A complete autopsy will be released in 10 days. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
3 men are facing firearms charges in connection with the shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl victory parade last month that left 1 person dead and nearly 24 others hurt. 22-year-old Fedo Antonia Manning, along with a 21 and 19-year-old, were arrested and all face a myriad of charges, including purchasing a gun for someone who's prohibited by law of possessing one. The trio were not charged with firing weapons. Police arrested 2 juveniles soon after the parade on gun-related and resisting arrest charges. Additional weapons were found at the scene. Republicans in a House committee are trying to push the blame away from former President Trump for the January 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Details from correspondent Donna Warder.
The House Administration Subcommittee on Oversight held the first of what's expected to be regular public hearings that revisit the official account of the attack. Republicans grilled the U.S. Capitol Police about why a bomb-sniffing canine unit didn't initially detect pipe bombs found outside party headquarters, and why police didn't respond faster to seal off the area. Ranking Democrat Norma Torres of California questioned the whole point of the hearing, asking, "What exactly is it that we're trying to do here?" She said maybe it's to peddle crazy right-wing conspiracy theories about the January 6th pipe bombs spreading in the dark corners of the internet. House Speaker Mike Johnson says House Republicans intend to release a final report to correct the incomplete narrative advanced by the previous work of the Select Committee. Donna Warder, Washington.
As the situation in Haiti worsens, there's concern in Florida that Haitian migrants fleeing the violence in boats could turn up on Florida beaches. Governor Ron DeSantis has ordered extra police along with patrol boats and aircraft to monitor activity in the state's coastal waters. CNN is reporting that the worry is so great, the Biden administration is considering using Guantanamo Bay to process and possibly hold some Haitian migrants if there's a mass exodus. The Guantanamo Bay Naval Facility is about 200 miles from Haiti and has an established migrant center separate from where terrorist suspects are held. America in the Morning continues. AI has been making great headway in summarizing information for its users, but one company is restricting how it will comment on any upcoming political election. A closer look from correspondent Chuck Palm in today's Tech Report.
Google's AI chatbot Gemini has been restricted from answering questions about global elections that are going to be happening this year. Parent company Alphabet said it looks to avoid potential missteps in the deployment of the technology. Google announced the restrictions would be forthcoming for U.S. elections last December, saying that out of abundance of caution, they're restricting the types of election-related queries for which Gemini could return responses. Aside from the United States, national elections are set to be held in several large countries, including South Africa and India, the world's largest democracy. Google's AI products have come under scrutiny after some inaccuracies of historical descriptions of people that were created by Gemini forced it to pause the chatbot's image generation feature last month. CEO Sundar Pichai said the company was working to fix those issues and called the responses biased and completely unacceptable. Let us know what you think at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Thursday Sports is in with Robert Workman on America in the Morning.
NBA Wednesday, the Nuggets handled the Heat 100-88 in a rematch of last year's NBA Finals. Denver's fourth straight win puts the defending champions back on top in the Western Conference standings for the first time since before Thanksgiving. Cavaliers hit 20 three-point shots and ran past the Pelicans. DeMar DeRozan had 46 points, including the go-ahead tray in overtime to lift the Bulls over the Pacers. Mavericks topped the Warriors. No triple-double for Luka Doncic. His streak ends at 7 games. But Daniel Gafford went 5 for 5, extending his shooting streak to 33 in a row. That's just 2 off Wilt Chamberlain's record set in 1967.
But I try to tell myself not to just worry about it because, if I do it, then that's good. I'm going to celebrate it, of course. But at the end of the day, I just want to come out and win games.
Pistons, Blazers, Magic, Kings, and Hornets win. College basketball, number 16 Kansas got slammed by Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament. The injury-riddled Jayhawks have dropped 4 of their last 5 as they head to the big dance. 3 conference finals last night. McNeese beat Nichols for the Southland title, the Cowboys' 30th win this year. Colgate romped over Lehigh to win the Patriot League, and Montana State completed its upset run, the 5-seed Bobcats beating Montana to take the Big Sky. Hockey, the Oilers drilled the Capitals 7-2, Zach Hyman with a hat trick. Predators, Avalanche, and Blues win. NFL Comeback Player of the Year Joe Flacco has reportedly agreed on a 1-year deal with the Colts where he'll back up Anthony Richardson. Less than a week away from the MLB season opener in South Korea between the Dodgers and the Padres, and San Diego pulled off a big deal, sending 3 prospects and a bullpen arm to the White Sox for Dylan Cease. That's Thursday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. Family Tree and Family Dollar don't have the dollars. Learn their fate when America in the Morning continues after these messages. We're back. This is America in the Morning. Shoppers at Dollar Tree and Family Dollar take note. The discount variety chain will be closing 1,000 stores, the majority of them this year. Correspondent Rita Foley reports.
Dollar Tree will close nearly 1,000 stores. Most are Family Dollar stores. Dollar Tree acquired Family Dollar for more than $8 billion in 2015, but it's had a tough time absorbing the chain. One analyst says, almost 10 years on, Dollar Tree is still sifting through the mess it inherited and has not been able to completely turn around. Dollar Tree's customers have actually been trying to cut spending as they wrestle with inflation. While more shoppers were heading to stores, they were closely watching how much they spent, with the average ticket down 0.7%. I'm Rita Foley.
Actress Olivia Munn revealed she's been privately battling breast cancer, saying she had 4 surgeries in the past 10 months. Kevin Carr has more on her story.
Actress Olivia Munn announced on her Instagram Wednesday that she was diagnosed with breast cancer in April of last year. The post included a written message as well as pictures of her treatment. The 43-year-old actress explained that after a routine mammogram, her OBGYN calculated her breast cancer risk assessment score. This led to a diagnosis of the aggressive luminal B breast cancer in both breasts. Over the past 10 months, Munn has undergone 4 surgeries, including a double mastectomy. Munn became a star in 2007 when she started hosting the G4 series Attack of the Show.
Welcome to Attack of the Show! What's up, everybody? I'm Olivia Munn.
She became an instant phenomenon with the audience of gamers and nerd culture enthusiasts. Later, Munn became a correspondent for The Daily Show and appeared on television series like The Newsroom and in multiple films like Magic Mike and X-Men Apocalypse. In her post, Munn thanked John Mulaney, with whom she shares a child, as well as her doctors and nurses. Included in the post was an emotional video of her OBGYN talking to her before undergoing surgery.
Do it for him, do it for your baby. This stuff doesn't matter. Right. This is nothing. I love you. I'm going to be there with you. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Munn urged people to get screened to allow early treatment. She hopes her story will, quote, help others find comfort, inspiration, and support. I'm Kevin Carr.
A court has ruled on the sentencing date for the weapons supervisor for the Alec Baldwin movie Rust. Correspondent Margie Zaraletta is following details.
Judge Mary Marlowe Summer has scheduled sentencing for armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed for April 15th. Gutierrez-Reed faces up to 18 months in prison and a $5,000 fine. She was the armorer on the set of the movie Rust. Prosecutors say she unwittingly brought live ammunition onto the set when it was expressly forbidden, and she failed to follow basic gun safety protocols. Actor Alec Baldwin was pointing a gun during a rehearsal in 2021 when it went off, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Baldwin will be tried for involuntary manslaughter in July. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
That's our show for today, Thursday, March 14th, 2024. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.